Capcom is back with a new event video, whatever you want to call it, for Resident Evil Requiem, The Road to Requiem. There were a couple of things you may have noticed that you may have not noticed, and a couple of things I'd like to point out personally, as I am the best and the smartest Resident Evil creator in the world, basically. And me being the observant genius that I am, I can with certainty tell you 100% Brandon Bailey is the villain for Resident Evil Requiem. It's been all but confirmed in this video. It's been subtly, very subtly confirmed that he is the one running behind the thing, running the things from behind. I'm going to get into how he's coming back in this video a bit later. First, I'm gonna take a look at some other things. And if you still do not know who Brandon Bailey is, then first of all, what are you doing? I made a video about this like months ago. Go watch it. And second of all, I was actually gonna tell you to watch the video, but I told you in the first point, so I guess there is no second of all. Anyway, the first thing you may have noticed in the Road to Requiem video is that the host is Maggie Robertson, who was the voice actor for Lady Dimitrescu in Resident Evil Village, which is a bit of an odd choice. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the character, and Maggie Robertson seems to love the character as well, as she says in the video, and she seems to be a fan of the series, so they wanted to bring her back, so they did it, which I'm here for it. Obviously, Lady Dimitrescu was also a big selling point for Resident Evil Village, but a character that's already dead, it's one game off thing, that doesn't really seem, it just seems strange, but you know, I'm not gonna complain. That it's not where Lady Dimitrescu's involvement in Requiem ends. You also get in the deluxe edition a Lady Dimitrescu costume, which is crazy. I mean, just in the context of the game, it seems very silly.
Okay.
But again, not gonna complain. It's probably because Maggie Robertson was involved in this trailer. Maybe she's somehow involved in the game in other ways. But I'm not gonna complain about it. You know, it's a strange choice for a costume, but sure. I mean, hell, if the game is able to not take itself too seriously, I'm here for it, because that's what always made Resident Evil great. That's what made Resident Evil 4 the greatest game of all time.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
With the deluxe kit, you also get like audio pack Raccoon City Classics, which is probably going to be soundtrack from Resident Evil 2 and 3, files from 1998. I think that's just going to be like recounting of the events, but if it's like the actual files that you can find in Resident Evil 2 and 3, I think that would be a great addition. I think that would be worth the deluxe edition, however much it's going to cost. I'm not sure, I haven't checked. Then Mr. Raccoon charm for your gun, I presume. Again, the game is going to take place in Raccoon City in some capacity, so this is why we get all these references to Resident Evil 2 and 3 primarily. And we also get screen filter Apocalypse and weapon skin Apocalypse, which is obviously a reference to the greatest movie of all time, Resident Evil Apocalypse. I'm just joking, but we can also get a skin for Grace, which is called the Apocalypse skin, which I think looks really good. But it makes me think, why is it called Apocalypse? I mean, is it just the name that they chose for it, or is it going to play any significance? Because apocalypse usually means like a global thing, you know, like a zombie apocalypse means that the entire world is going to be overrun by zombies. This has never happened in Resident Evil, not on like a global scale. It's always been like limited to a certain area that's been overrun by zombies, like Raccoon City or the village in Resident Evil 4, you know the drill. Obviously, global outbreak would be a huge step for the franchise, but I do not think that's what it is. I think it's probably just a name they picked. Maybe it's a reference to Outbreak, as Grace's mother, Lisa, was, you know, she was one of the main characters in Resident Evil Outbreak. So Apocalypse is like the next step from Outbreak, you know, like Outbreak, it's a local thing, and then Apocalypse, it's a global thing. But I choose to believe it's just the name they picked for those skins. Or maybe Brandon Bailey's plan is like an apocalypse, like a complete global saturation, but obviously because he's a villain in Resident Evil game, he will not succeed. Maggie Robertson also goes on to recount the events of basically the entire franchise, although she seems to have conveniently skipped over Resident Evil Revelations 2, which I will never forgive her because it's a great game. Obviously she only focused on the mainline entries, but here is where I want to stop and look at how she indirectly confirms that it is Brandon Bailey. It's not Wesker, it's not Spencer, it's not anyone else but Bailey. Towards the end of the recollection, she mentions how during the village incident, which not only the village incident but also Resident Evil 7, but that's besides the point, during the village incident there was a secret organization known as Just the Connections was operating from the shadows, and that's how it ends. That's how she finishes the recollection. And if you watched my previous video, which you should have by now, Brandon Bailey is the leader of the Connections. To include that comment at the very end of her speech, it's obviously a teaser for Requiem. The Connections are going to be the main villains for the game, and their secrets are going to be revealed with Brandon Bailey as the head. You are still going to see people say it's Spencer or that it's someone else, but it is not. And that's because during her speech, Grace mentioned how all of the other scientists were tracked down and footage from Resident Evil 5 is seen. This seems to me like a definitive statement that both Wesker and Spencer are gone. This whole focus on the lore of it, on Spencer and the scientific part of Umbrella, is again a teaser for Brandon Bailey because he was deeply connected with Spencer and especially with Marcus. In fact, I do not think that Wesker was even mentioned by name in like this whole trailer, and that is, I think, to not mislead you as the viewer that he's going to be somehow involved, because I guarantee you if there was even a slight mention of Albert Wesker, all of the Wesker fans would lose their shit and claim how he's coming back in Requiem. They could literally say in the trailer that Albert Wesker is dead and he's never coming back, and then Wesker fans would say that he's coming back just because he was mentioned. So again, I think the whole mention of the Connections at the very end was to remind you that this organization, it indeed exists, it indeed operates from the shadows, and that it is going to be a big part of Resident Evil Requiem. Brandon Bailey is the leader of the Connections, therefore, you know, he's the main villain there. On top of all this, we got some very brief new footage. We saw like Elisa hiding something behind a painting which looked like a file of some sort, with Grace asking herself what did she hide there.
What did you hide behind that painting?
Which is probably going to be something important if, you know, we gotta focus on that whole thing happening. My guess is that file or whatever it is she hid there is going to be the reason why we are in Raccoon City while Brandon Bailey is here, and why we are here, why, you know, Grace was sent out on this mission. Then we also hear Brandon Bailey speaking again.
Miss Ashcroft. Come in. There's no escaping your destiny.
We have so much to do.
And the more we hear him, the more he sounds like Sadler from Resident Evil 4 Remake. But again, do not be tricked by it. It is Brandon Bailey, it is nobody else. People are going to try to deceive you and say that it's Spencer because it is an older guy. At this point, Bailey is pretty old himself, so again, that is no evidence that it's Spencer. And at the very end, Grace asks the right question. She asks, why me? Why is it her that Brandon Bailey's after, that he orchestrated this whole thing just to lure her out? In one of my older videos I said that this game is going to have a theme of fatherhood, that how Resident Evil 7 the main villain was a daughter, you know, just wanting to have a family. Then Village was a game where a mother wanted to have her daughter back, so there was the theme of motherhood. And then this game is going to have a father as the main villain with the theme of fatherhood. So Brandon Bailey being the father of Grace, you know, I don't think it's that far-fetched. And if not that, then Alisa's involvement in Outbreak might play a connection, that maybe she contracted some virus or something, which in turn places Grace in an interesting position, like Rose, that she may possess some special powers or something. I also would like to trace back a little bit and focus on the hooded figure. Previously I said that it might be Ethan's clone, which I know might seem a little bit silly, but again I still think there is some merit to it. But I think it was mentioned in some interview that it's going to be a brand new character, which, you know, if it's an Ethan clone, technically it would still be a new character because we haven't seen this particular clone before. Or it might even be Bailey himself, because we technically only saw the hooded figure in a flashback to when Elisa died. Bailey may have been younger, you know, maybe he did not have the goggles fused to his eyes just yet. I honestly do not think it's the same person, but I do believe they are somehow related, like in a family relationship, because they do seem to have the same thing going on, like on their skin, like their skin has this like sickly gray color, probably a mutation of some sort, and Grace may be an answer to that, like her blood may have some antidote if she is like the Brandon Bailey's daughter and this is her brother, the hooded figure would be her brother. Then maybe because Grace is okay, like her skin did not like turn gray or whatever, she may be immune to whatever they have going on, therefore they need her blood. But that is just something that occurred to me while watching the trailer. I'm not certain by any means. If you ever see someone who claims to be a leaker saying that they know something that you have not heard in this video, they are 100% lying. Do not ever trust leakers, only trust me because I'm a genius. And one thing I know for certain is that it is Brandon Bailey, again not based on some leaks, based solely on what they showed in this video, what language they used, and you know what they were basically talking about and how were they talking about it. This is Brandon Bailey. Like and subscribe, or Brandon Bailey will kidnap you and turn you into a monster. And hopefully I will see you next time.